What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Potensic Atom 2. Potensic was cool enough to send this over for us to review. Quick housekeeping before we get started: they do not get to view this video before it goes up, and they have no say in how we review the item. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so let's talk about a few specs right out of the box. So they claim it has a 32-minute max flight time per battery, 10 kilometers of flight distance from the controller, 8K photo, 4K video, some panoramic modes, some AI tracking modes, a slow motion mode, and then a 2.7K vertical mode, and 25 megabytes per second quick transfer, and that's probably transferring it from the controller and the drone itself without having to remove the SD card. If you're looking to purchase this, it does come in two packages. As you can see there, they sent over the Fly More combo, which includes the extra batteries, the case, and all the extra accessories. If you're looking to just purchase the drone itself, they do have a regular drone combination, which is just the drone, one battery, and the controller. So as of today, in the recording of this video, obviously this can change just because of things that are going on in the world, but the Fly More combo kit is $449. If you're looking to pick up the regular kit, it starts out at $329. Now these are prices, like I said, based off today. This could change in the future. It could go up, it could go down. So we'll have to keep an eye on that to see where it goes, but that's the pricing as of today. Okay, before we go out and test this thing, let's talk about where this drone might fit in the consumer lineup that is available as of today. So we all know that DJI is the main consumer drone company out there. It's sort of the 800-pound gorilla. And I would say that they dominate the space for drones under 249 grams. And that's where the Potensic Atom 2 sort of fits in. It kind of fits into the DJI Mini line, or even something like the DJI Flip line. I wouldn't go as far as comparing the Neo to it. I think the Neo is actually obviously more of a toy consumer drone and falls beneath the capabilities of the Atom 2. But this is definitely going for that space where the Mini lives and where the Flip lives. As far as it fitting up against the DJI Mini Pro series, I don't think it really fits in that lineup just because of some of the Pro specs that the Pro Mini series has. Things like the log profile, some of the slow motion capabilities of that particular drone, and a few other factors. Today we are going to be taking a look at the Atom 2 by Potensic. We are going to be testing it out here in the elements. We're at the beach, so it is a little bit breezy. We're going to see how well it holds up, how well the battery does, and overall just what it looks like when it's in flight. Let's go ahead and get into it. We are all set here. Everything is updated. First thing to note, definitely not in love with the fact that there's no ND filters. That is definitely putting a limitation on the quality of the footage that you're gonna get already. So the fact that they don't provide any, and there are not any third-party companies that I know of that have any, definitely puts a little bit of a damper on sort of like the quality you're gonna get out of this, which kind of sucks. But we're gonna go in auto mode and see what happens. So let's get it off the ground. All right, so we got the Atom 2 up in the air. We're gonna take it around here and see what we can get. There's definitely a bunch of different lighting scenarios happening right now, which is cool. So we've got some clouds, so we've got some shaded area, we've got some super bright area. So we'll see how the Atom does. All right, so up in the air, and I'm running the controllers at, I'm running the controller at the default factory settings. So left joystick is up and down, and then obviously pan left, pan right, or turn the drone left and right. And then the right joystick is forward, backwards, and then side to side. So pretty standard stuff. But the beginning right now, as you can see, the footage is not the greatest. It's kind of blown out right now. This is just a transmission video, so we'll see what it looks like once we pull it off the card. But just sort of panning around, just looking around right now, different lighting areas. The non-ND filter thing is really sort of a bummer, but we'll see what it looks like when we pull it off the card, and maybe there's a little bit of latitude in the footage once we get it onto the computer. All right, so right now it seems to be doing pretty good as far as wind going. I don't seem to have any problems of the wind. It's giving me some tips on how to actually fly smooth, which is cool. The interface of this is pretty cool. I mean, it's very DJI reminiscent, so it's, you know, it's fine. There's nothing crazy about it. Looks like it works. Transmission looks really good. Uh-oh. Adjust the antenna, so... All right, confirm. So I guess if you flatten out the antenna, that gives you the best sort of reception. Yeah, I mean, it looks all right in auto mode. It's not terrible in the transmission. I'm gonna bring it back. I don't want to go too far just because I don't know the limitations. I'm definitely not going to use this as the testing for the limitations. All right, just got done flying the Atom 2. The Atom 2 overall was really a pretty good experience. Didn't have anything bad off this initial flight. I actually enjoyed flying it. Transmission was a little bit iffy here and there, and obviously the interface is just a tad bit different than what I'm used to. But other than that, just flying any other drones, it felt pretty natural and normal to fly in the air. Now I'm gonna throw the DJI Flip up in the air and we'll do a one-on-one comparison against each other. We'll see what it looks like. All right, so now we are going to test out the Flip. We're gonna throw this in the air, and obviously the elephant in the room here between the two right off the bat is going to be number one, the controller, but two, the ND filter or lack of ND filters available on the Atom 2. So obviously footage quality right there hits a bit of a snag. But what we're going to do is we're going to fly the Flip without ND filter so we can see sort of a comparison. And yeah, we'll do a side by side. So off the bat, the controls on the DJI controls, and this is pretty true for all of them, all of the drone lines, feels a little bit more refined versus the Atom 2. Transmission is quicker, and transmission is more responsive, meaning when I do a move, the drone responds faster. So it is interesting to see the difference between the two. Not to say that the Potensic is bad. I think it's actually pretty great for what it is. But yeah, just right off the bat, that's just one of the things I noticed. So again, doing a quality test here, we'll see what the two look like versus each other, because this is a pretty comparable price range and camera between the two. So it'll be interesting. All right, so just got done finishing up flying the Flip and comparing it really quick against the Atom 2. So first impressions of the Atom 2 overall, I think I'm pretty impressed. I was not expecting a lot out of it, just being that it is a unknown manufacturer, more or less, and it's a little bit newer to the market, even though this is the second version of that particular drone. You know, there's not a whole lot of competition right now in the marketplace against DJI, so it's hard to really do one-on-one comparisons when there aren't a lot of options. I would say that it's awesome to see that more companies like Potensic are trying to get into the marketplace, because that pushes the limits of DJI and pushes sort of like their boundaries on what they can innovate on. You know, as we all know, when there's only one big fish in the pond, there's no real reason for it to go out and hunt and find new ways to keep surviving. So it's good to see that this is sort of out there. All right, guys, I actually wanted to do one more test out here while we're out here in the field. I want to do a sound test. So what I'm going to do is put the microphone that I got here in my hand next to the drone, and we'll see how loud or the difference in the sound between the two drones are. I do have the Neo here with me. I did not compare it camera-wise against these two drones because I didn't think it was actually fair, because it's really not in the same market or same class. But I will do a noise comparison because that drone is actually supposed to be pretty quiet, and it's supposed to be obviously the more family-friendly, less invasive drone. So we'll see which one is the loudest.
Take off. Home point updated.
Okay, so that's going to do it for me out here on location. We will wrap this up in the studio. All right, guys, and we're back in the studio. I hope you enjoyed that quick comparison we did of the Atom 2 versus the other drones. Like I said in some of the recaps that I was doing out there live, there's definitely some shortcomings, but there's also a lot of positive about this drone. The first thing I'll say that's positive is I really do like that Potensic is trying to break into the marketplace and take on something like a DJI out there. It just creates an overall bigger marketplace for other drone companies. I know it's going to be kind of tough for them to really grab some market share, but I do think there is potential out there for a drone like the Atom 2 to exist and other drones to follow it. And hopefully Potensic keeps going down that path where they're improving and innovating, because really all it does is lead to innovation in the space in general. So that's definitely a big positive. The other positive is it's pretty fun to fly, and I think they actually did a pretty good job on the software that they created. I believe it's very similar, and it felt very similar to what DJI offers for their software. So I think industry standard, it's definitely up there, and they did do a good job creating software, which can usually be sort of the downfall with a lot of these other smaller drone companies. So definitely thumbs up to them for doing that. And one last positive thing that I did want to take note of, and I did this live when I was flying it, is the sound decibel level of this particular drone. Now, I did not use a decibel meter to measure the sound, so I don't have the decibel meters, and I'm sure you can find those specs somewhere online. But comparing it to the Neo and the Flip, I was quite a bit surprised at how quiet it actually was in comparison to the two of them. Now, the Flip is obviously closer to propeller size. The propeller sizes are a little bit closer in dimensions. But the fact that this thing was actually a lot quieter, I think was a huge win for the Potensic Atom 2, because when you're flying in an area public like the beach or somewhere where you don't necessarily want everybody knowing you're flying a drone. Now, I'm not saying do this illegally, but if you're in an area that is open and there is open space and you're going to be flying near or over people, which you should be careful, I think that, you know, the more discreet you can be, the better off you're going to be, and the better of an experience you're going to have as a drone pilot, especially as a new drone pilot. I know when I was first flying that one of the things I struggled with was worried about everybody hearing the drone and kind of freaking out. So the fact that you can be a little bit more discreet with the Potensic Atom 2, I think is a huge win for this particular drone. Now let's talk about some of the cons that I think are kind of holding this drone back from its full potential. And, you know, this is nothing new. I definitely said this while we were out there flying it, but I think the fact that you don't have an ND set of filters for this or ND support for this within the drone coming from Potensic themselves, I think is a bit difficult. As someone who likes to fly their drone for not only recreation but also for a little bit of professional work, ND filters are definitely a big tool that most drone pilots will use out there to get more cinematic looking footage, but also just to control the camera better in different environments. So obviously, because you're flying a drone and most of the time it is landscape, you're battling the sun. So having ND support on your drone is super important. There's a ton of ND filter companies out there that make third-party ND filters for a lot of other cameras. Obviously, all the DJI drones have third-party ND filters that you can purchase. And then there's a lot of other ND filter companies that make filters for that. So I think it's more a case of, do the third-party companies think it's worth investing in a smaller drone company like Potensic? Because it's obviously, you know, it's a big lift to create a product made for such a small audience that may never take off. So there's a lot of expense, there's a lot of overhead, there's a lot of R&D that goes into that, time and money and labor. So it is something big to take on when you're a company making filters for these different cameras. So hopefully in the future, Potensic will actually support their own drones and have their own version. And then obviously that will help lead to other companies creating them. The second con that I'll say is the controller itself is kind of bulky. You know, obviously this is more of like a user preference thing, but you know, when you expand this thing out and you add something like what I'm flying with, which is an iPhone 16 Pro Max, it does get kind of heavy and it does get kind of bulky. And having this antenna move is a little bit scary. You know, if you don't pack it up right or if you don't fold it down all the way, the potential of it breaking is obviously there. I know that the DJI drones also have folding antennas, but those are a lot easier to fold up and they're a lot more manageable, a lot more compact. So I think, you know, the controller just being a little bit more compact and smaller would definitely be a positive. And then adding some better tactile buttons on here. The buttons actually feel fine. It's the sticks and the scroll wheels. They feel a little bit, I don't want to say cheap because I know it's not cheap, but they definitely don't feel as refined as something you'd find on like an RC2 controller. So it'd be nice to see in the next iteration for them to upgrade something like that. And really one of the last things is this is sort of a pain in the butt. This is a barrel connector, and this is one extra accessory that you have to carry to use the charging dock with the batteries. And I think that is sort of a big downfall because one, it's one more thing I have to remember to pack in the case, whether it's the case that it comes with or it's the case that, you know, I'm packing the rest of my gear in. I don't usually carry barrel connectors. In fact, I've converted all my old charging batteries that used barrel connectors, whether it was in a dock like this or the battery itself that uses a barrel connector. I've converted all of those to USB-C. And the fact that these batteries take USB-C, but the dock itself doesn't, is sort of hard to believe. Actually, it's kind of challenging, and it's kind of disappointing to say the least, because this is just, again, like I said, this is just one more thing to forget, one more thing to break, one more thing to leave behind at a shoot, or one more thing to just, you know, again, forget, because I won't remember to pack this. And the next thing you know is I'm having to charge all these batteries individually, and that's, you know, just another pain in the butt. So that defeats the purpose of having this nice little carrying dock. All right, let's talk about who this drone is for and why I think you should pick it up. So this drone is great if you're a first-time drone user or if you're a first-time purchaser of a drone. I do think it is a good buy if you're buying the kit that does not include the bag or the extra batteries. I think that one is priced appropriately. I do think it's a little overpriced to buy the Fly More combo with the 2 extra batteries in the kit and the case. Comparative to what else is out there on the market at that price point, I do think you're kind of getting a limited version of what else is out there. So I don't know if I could recommend the Fly More combo, but the regular drone where it's just a controller, 1 battery, and the drone itself, I think is a perfect kit to get. It's easy to get up in the air. It's easy to start using. The interface on the app is pretty good and easy to use. Very similar, like I said earlier, to what DJI offers. So in that regard, I think the software is perfectly fine for somebody who's never flown before. I do think it is a little bit scary without some of the onboard safety features that some of the higher end drones have. Now in this price point, you're not going to get all the bells and whistles as far as safety features. So I would definitely recommend that, you know, you look into that, or you're just very careful when you're flying without all the sensors on board. But if you're just looking to fly a drone for recreational purposes and you just want to take it out a couple weekends or on a road trip or, you know, just randomly here and there, this is the perfect drone. I think it's a really good buy at the $329 price point if it's still available. And that's the one that I would recommend if you're a first-time drone buyer. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today on the quick review of the Potensic Atom 2. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And as always, if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next one.